She waited 30 years for the crown. She endured the protests, the headlines, the eggs thrown at her car. She sat in the shadows while the world worshipped the woman her affair had helped destroy. She rebuilt her image, inch by careful inch, until the palace deemed her presentable enough to stand beside a king. And in September 2022, when Charles was proclaimed King of England, Camilla finally got what she had always wanted. The title, the palace, the crown. But here's what nobody in that gilded throne room was willing to say out loud. The reign of King Charles is not the end of this story. It is simply the pause before the final chapter. Because Charles is 76 years old. And waiting in the wings, patient, deliberate, and carrying 30 years of his mother's memory, is Prince William. The day William becomes king is the day everything changes. And for Camilla, that day is the most terrifying date on the calendar. This is what will happen to Queen Camilla II. William takes the throne. This is the quiet, inevitable, unstoppable revenge of Princess Diana. Understanding Camilla's current position. Before we can understand what William will do, we need to understand exactly how precarious Camilla's position already is. Despite her title, despite the years of careful PR management, despite the palace's relentless campaign to rehabilitate her image, Camilla remains one of the most divisive figures in modern British history. A YouGov poll conducted following Charles' coronation found that a significant portion of the British public still views Camilla unfavorably. The numbers are better than they were in the 1990s, when she was genuinely reviled. But they have never reached the levels of warmth that Diana commanded, or that Queen Elizabeth held throughout her reign. The palace knows this. Camilla knows this. Her entire public image has been constructed on one foundational strategy. Never give the press a reason to make the Diana comparison. Never engage with the legacy directly. Never acknowledge the wound. Keep moving, keep smiling, keep the curtain drawn. It is a strategy that has worked barely, and only because the institution has thrown its full weight behind it. But that institutional protection belongs to Charles. And when Charles is gone, so is the protection. William and the promise he made to Diana. To understand what William will do when he becomes king, you have to understand what Diana did in the years before she died. Diana was not naive about mortality. She had received threats. She had felt the machinery of the institution turn against her. She understood, with the clarity of someone who has survived the palace at its worst, that her time may be limited, and so she prepared. Not with drama, not with a single grand revelation designed for the history books, but slowly, over years, in the way that mothers prepare their children for a world that will not always be kind. She taught William to see clearly. She showed him what the palace was capable of. She gave him the tools to think critically about the institution he would one day inherit. Those close to William say he made a private promise, not a formal declaration, but the kind of vow that forms in a child's heart and never leaves. That Diana's legacy would not be buried. That the truth of her life, her compassion, her fight, her pain, and yes, the things that were done to her, would not be quietly archived into a footnote of royal history. William is a man of few public words, but his actions have been speaking clearly for years. Diana's engagement ring is on Kate's hand. A daily, visible, impossible to ignore statement of continuity. Diana's face is in William's office. Her name is in the work he does. Her philosophy is in the way he parents George, Charlotte, and Louis. And when William steps into the role of king, he will have the full power of the British monarchy behind his choices. Every single one of them. The title question, what happens to Camilla's crown? Here is the first and most immediate thing that changes the day William becomes king. Camilla's title. Currently, Camilla holds the title of Queen. A title that was itself controversial, given that Charles had previously indicated she would be known as Princess Consort. The decision to grant her the full Queen title was made by the late Queen Elizabeth, announced in the final months of her reign, but that decision applied to the reign of Charles III. William is under no obligation to extend it. When William is crowned, he will be king. His wife, Catherine, will be Queen Consort, and in time, likely queen in her own right as the British public's most beloved royal figure. Camilla will no longer be queen of anything. The title she fought 3 decades to reach will be stripped away, by the simple act of time. What she will be called instead is a matter of royal convention, and William's personal discretion. She could be styled as Queen Mother, though that title carries Diana's shadow. As it was Diana, who was always expected to one day hold it, she could be given a lesser title, or simply referred to as the Dowager Queen. But whatever the title, the message will be the same. Camilla's reign is over, and it will have lasted only as long as Charles did. The palace and who controls the narrative. The second thing that changes the moment William is king is something far more powerful than a title. It is the narrative. The British monarchy controls one of the most powerful storytelling machines in the world. State ceremonies, royal warrants, patronages, commemorations. The way history is officially recorded and presented. Currently, that machine is managed in a way that protects Charles, and by extension, Camilla. The rehabilitation of Camilla's image has been a palace project, funded by public money, and managed by royal communications teams. Stories have been placed. Photographs have been curated. Documentaries have been shaped. The Diana comparison has been systematically suppressed, wherever possible. When William is king, he controls all of that, and those close to William are in no doubt about the direction he will take it. William has already begun signaling his vision of the monarchy. One that is modern, transparent, connected to ordinary people, and explicitly rooted in Diana's values and legacy. He has spoken publicly about mental health in ways the palace never would have permitted a decade ago. Because Diana made it acceptable to speak about such things. He has prioritized connection over ceremony, accessibility over protocol. And when he has full control, sources suggest he will begin the formal, institutional work of cementing Diana's place in royal history. Commemorations, documentaries, officially sanctioned tributes. The kind of acknowledgement that, under Charles, would have been impossible because it would have cast too long a shadow over Camilla. Under William, it will be not just possible but inevitable. What William will never forgive. There is something that those who write about William carefully never say directly. So Northwire will say it. William has never forgiven. He has been diplomatic. He has been professional. He has performed, with extraordinary discipline, the role of a man who has moved on. But moving on and forgiving are two entirely different things. William watched his mother beg the palace for protection and be denied. He watched her stripped of her title. He watched her isolated, undermined, and ultimately, in his deepest private belief, left without the protection that could have saved her life. And he watched the woman whose affair sat at the center of all that pain elevated, year by year, until she wore a crown. There are those who argue that William has made peace with Camilla for the sake of his father. That the relationship, however thin, represents a mature acceptance of complicated family realities. But acceptance is not forgiveness. And when the constraint of honoring his father's reign is removed, when William is king, and the choices are his alone, there is very little reason to believe he will spend his reign protecting the legacy of a woman he holds responsible, in ways he has never publicly articulated, for so much of his mother's suffering. The restraint William has shown is not permanent. It is patient. Diana's grandchildren, the ultimate legacy, perhaps the most profound revenge, if we can call it that, is not what William will do in the formal, institutional sense. It is what Diana is already doing through William's children. George, Charlotte, and Louis know who their grandmother was. William has made sure of it. They have grown up with her photographs, with her stories, with the values she passed to William being passed again to them. When George one day becomes king, when the throne passes to Diana's grandson, her legacy will not be a chapter in a history book. It will be sitting on the throne, the woman who was stripped of her HRH title, who was told she was too emotional, too complicated, too much for the palace to manage. Her blood will wear the crown. Her values will shape the monarchy. Her love passed from mother to son to grandchildren will outlast every title, every rehabilitation campaign, every carefully managed photograph. Camilla spent 30 years trying to reach the crown. Diana's family will hold it for generations. The revenge that needs no announcement. The revenge of Diana is not a dramatic moment. It will not be a press conference. It will not be a statement. It will not be William standing in front of the cameras and saying the things that Harry said in his memoir. It will be quieter than that. And far more permanent. It will be the moment William is crowned and Camilla's title dissolves. It will be the first Diana commemoration that receives full royal backing under a king who loved his mother. It will be the gradual, unstoppable shift in how the monarchy tells its own story, with Diana at the center, not hidden in the margins. It will be George, one day, sitting on a throne that Diana was told she was never worthy of. Camilla got the crown. But Diana got the future. And in the end, the future is the only thing that matters. Subscribe to Northwire, because the palace still has secrets. And we are not done uncovering them.